Alright guys, what I need for you to do first is to get your notes notebook out and open your notes to page 67, which should look like this. So go ahead and take a minute. If you need to pause the video, do so, get your notes out, and open them up to page 67. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at today is the Virginia State Court System. And the first thing that you need to know about the Virginia State Court System, and this first thing you're going to look at, you'll fill in right here in this little splat thing on your notes. But the first thing that you need to know are the types of cases that are heard at the state level. So the question is, what kinds of cases are tried in courts on the state level of government? And the answer to that is cases involving state laws and local ordinances. So take a minute and copy that down. Remember, you can pause the video whenever you need to get caught up on your writing. We've talked about the judicial branch earlier this year, and some people and groups that are involved in the judicial branch are our courts, which we're going to be discussing 5 courts that are found at the state level of government. Also, you have juries that are involved in the court system. Remember, juries are just a group of people who are randomly selected, and their job as a jury is to decide whether a defendant, who is the person who is being charged with a crime, or the person who's being sued, both of those are defendants, they try to decide whether that person is guilty or innocent, or whether that person is at fault in a disagreement in a civil dispute. So juries are involved in courts, and also judges, like Judge Judy, among others, are involved in the judicial branch or in the court system. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first court, which we're going to start at the bottom of your chart. So looking at your chart, we're going to start down here where it says Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court. And if you'll notice, for each court, you need to write down what type of jurisdiction they have, so whether they have original or appellate, and who decides cases at that level. So is it a judge or a jury? So looking at Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court, we see that they have original jurisdiction in cases involving juveniles. So what that means is if a juvenile commits a crime, which is a person under 18, so if a person under 18 commits a crime, they will go to a Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court first. So that's where juvenile cases will start, where they will begin. And the case decider in a juvenile court is going to be a judge. There will be no jury present because there is a great deal of privacy that is considered when cases involving juveniles are being heard in courts. If you'll notice, like in newspapers, when they write about juveniles who have been convicted of crimes or accused of crimes, they typically don't print the name of the juvenile in the newspaper because juveniles, since they are so young, get a lot of chances to get back on the right path and start making better decisions. So for that reason, usually specifics about cases involving juveniles are not shared with the public. Alright, so that's your juvenile court. The next court that you'll look at, which is going to be this one right here on your chart, is the General District Court. Now, the General District Court has original jurisdiction for low-dollar civil cases and misdemeanors. So you need to write all of this down beside jurisdiction on your chart. You might have to write small, but please do so. Civil cases, remember, are where people can sue each other, and typically it's over a certain amount of money. So I sue you for $500, or I sue you for $5,000. So for the General District Court, they hear low-dollar civil cases, which means cases involving, I think it's around $5,000 or lower, will go to the General District Court first. And they have original jurisdiction for misdemeanors. And a misdemeanor is just a low-level crime or a smaller crime. What I want you to do right now is pause this video, and I want you to do a Google search for examples of misdemeanor crimes. So pause the video, go to Google, type in this word misdemeanor there, or examples of misdemeanors, and find 3 examples of misdemeanor crimes, and I want you to add those to your notes. For the General District Court, the case decider will be a judge. There will not be a jury for the General District Court. So that's who is going to make the decision for the General District Court. Moving on to circuit courts, their jurisdiction, they have 2 different kinds. They have appellate from district courts. So circuit courts can review cases that were heard first at a district court. So if your case is heard at a district court and you don't like the decision, you can ask a circuit court to review it. So that's one type of jurisdiction they have. And they also have original jurisdiction for felony cases. Felony cases are criminal cases that are more severe. They're the serious criminal offenses. What I want you to do at this point is to take another minute. I want you to do another Google search for felony cases, and I want you to write that in this block of your chart. So examples of felony crimes, give me 3 examples like you did for misdemeanors of criminal cases that would be considered felonies. So go ahead and do that now. Also, circuit courts have original jurisdiction in high-dollar civil cases. And now I'm remembering correctly, the cutoff is $15,000. So if it's under $15,000, it will go to a general district court typically. If it's above $15,000, it will go to a circuit court. So if I drive a Ferrari and somebody runs into me and wrecks my car, totals it, I might sue them for the cost of my vehicle, which would absolutely be over $15,000. So if I sued someone for that, it would go to a circuit court first. And then the case decider in a circuit court can be a judge or a jury. This is the only court for the state of Virginia that will have a jury make the decision in a case. So that's important to remember. The next court up is the Court of Appeals. At the national level, they have a Court of Appeals, and also at the state level, they have a Court of Appeals. So the jurisdiction for the Court of Appeals is appellate jurisdiction. So cases can come up to them from the circuit court. And then the case decider for the Court of Appeals will be a judge. There will be no jury here, only judges. And as you can see in this image down here in the bottom, a Court of Appeals typically has a panel of 3 judges that will work together to decide a verdict in a case. So either all 3 can agree with each other, or you can have a majority of 2 against 1. So there's that screen if you didn't finish copying that down. And then the last level we'll talk about, and the level that has the most power and the most authority, is the Virginia Supreme Court. So we've already discussed that we have a United States Supreme Court, but every state has their own Supreme Court as well at the state level that interprets state laws. So the jurisdiction for the Virginia Supreme Court would be limited original. So there are a few cases where they may make the first decision in, but mostly they will have appellate jurisdiction. So most of the time they will have appellate jurisdiction. And then the case decider here will be justices, and I believe there are 7 justices for the Virginia Supreme Court. One extra thing I want you to add that I forgot to put in this Prezi is that the Virginia Supreme Court, and I want you to write it down here somewhere in your notes, the Virginia Supreme Court has judicial review over state laws. So write that in your notes here, that the Virginia Supreme Court has judicial review over state laws. So please add that to your notes. And then that will be a way for me to know if you're listening or not. All right, so that's it for your state court system notes. If you'll notice, there are a lot of similarities between the national government. Both levels have a Supreme Court. Both levels have a Court of Appeals. At the national level, there's a U.S. District Court. At the state level, there's a General District Court. There are more levels of courts at the state level because most laws that people break are state laws, so we need more courts to handle those cases. All right, so that's it for your notes today. Thank you for listening.